to hold my hand, standing in the shadows of where we have been, sleeping with your back facing me. I know this isn't us. Baby, pull me closer.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Amanda from Simply Amanda Lee, and I post weekly videos on all things home organizing, cooking, cleaning, general mom life, and getting it all done. So if you're not already subscribed and you like that sort of content, please consider subscribing. In today's video, we're making 3 super delicious meals that are gonna taste like you spent all day in the kitchen, but really they're simple, quick, and pretty inexpensive ingredients as well. And I know that is always the goal for our household, simple and yummy. We're making a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. And what I love about these recipes is that they're really super customizable for your family. So just kind of pick and choose the ingredients you like. As long as you have that base recipe, it's going to turn out great. And then throughout the video, I'm also going to be sharing some of my favorite tips for making meal planning super simple. I've spent like the last 4 years of my life trying to simplify everything. And so these are some of my favorite tips that have worked well for our family, and hopefully some of them can work well for you too. All right, we're going to get into it. I have my sous chef here to help me out with all of the cooking. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. We're gonna start this recipe by preheating our oven to 350. I've got some baby kale and I'm chopping up about 2 cups. This first dish we're making is egg frittatas. It's one of the most versatile and easy breakfast dishes you can make. What I love about this recipe is that it's fully customizable to what your family enjoys, and you can also make double or triple the recipe and easily freeze them. They're so perfect to quickly warm up for busy mornings or just mornings when you don't feel like cooking. You can also make it as basic or as bougie as your heart desires. Today, we're taking a risk and we're going with bougie. So I'm adding some single source olive oil to a pan, and I'm adding in that kale. We're gonna wilt it down, and then I'm also gonna add in some thyme and some garlic. Now, if you wanted to take this recipe up a notch and had a little bit extra time, you could definitely use whole fresh garlic and thyme leaves, but today we're trying to make this quick, so we just added the seasoning and we're going to wilt that down really quickly. It only takes a couple minutes. Now, if your family doesn't enjoy kale, you could definitely add in a broccoli, you could do zucchini, spinach, whatever your family likes, or just leave the veggies out altogether. Now my little sous chef is going to help me get these eggs cracked, and this specific recipe calls for 8 eggs to make 12 frittatas. I disagree with that after making this dish. I would suggest doing 1 egg per muffin tin. I will, of course, leave the actual links to all of these recipes in the description for you guys. So now we're gonna get all of those eggs just mixed up, scrambled up. She had such a fun time doing this. And then to that, she's gonna add some pepper, probably too much pepper. I had to grab it really quick so it didn't get too spicy, and just give that a good swirl. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add that salt and baby kale to the mixture. Another reason I love this recipe is that it can help you use up some of your leftovers. So whatever meats you have on hand, ham, sausage, steak, literally whatever you have. I even saw somebody that used spaghetti to make egg frittatas, which sounds crazy, but apparently it's pretty good. Anyways, now I'm just gonna add some goat cheese crumbles to this, and this is what's really gonna take this specific frittata recipe up to the next level. Now, I do know that my older 2 love goat cheese. My husband and I love goat cheese. We are definitely cheese connoisseurs in our house. However, Emma Rose has never had goat cheese, so we're gonna test it out and see what she thinks a little bit later on. My first tip for simplifying your meal planning is to keep a lot of different sauces on hand. As long as you have a good sauce, you can really make anything with very minimal effort. So I like to keep a pesto on hand. I have an apple butter barbecue sauce, a balsamic, also a garlic parmesan, a peanut sauce. I also like to keep a curry on hand and some diced green chilies. You can do a lot with those. And then we also keep salsa on hand. So as long as you have these things stocked in your pantry, you have a meal that takes little to no effort. These frittatas are looking great straight out of the oven. A little small though, which is why I would suggest 1 egg per cup, unless you're using a more hearty filling like a sausage or a broccoli. I think they're absolutely delicious, but let's see what Emma Rose thinks. This is the real test, right? All right, here we go. You gotta take a bite. Like whole thing, Bite. There you go. All right, let's let you get a chew. See how you really feel. How do you feel about it? Good. Are you sure? Okay, you want more? Nope. Unlike our other children, Emma Rose will pretty much eat anything, even if she doesn't like it. So the only way I truly know whether she likes something or not is by asking her if she wants more, and obviously she wasn't a fan. Anyways, now we're starting on our lunch dish. This meal is surprisingly hearty and again is quite customizable to what your family enjoys as long as you're using our base, which is orzo pasta. We're going with a Mediterranean vibe today, but you could also make this with lemon and chicken, shrimp. You could do a roasted garlic and spinach, or even you could do a summer orzo pasta with corn. The possibilities here are really endless. Now that we have the tomatoes and zucchini cut up, I'm just adding them into the same pan. I wilted down the spinach to save dishes, and we're just gonna let that cook a little bit. And once it starts to look like this, I'm actually gonna take the lid off and let some of that liquid cook down just a little bit. Since we're looking for quick today, I'm using one of the sauces I had on hand, a balsamic avocado marinade. I'm also adding in chickpeas, which is going to increase our protein and make it more hearty since we're making this vegetarian. Now, this is a great recipe to meal prep with. It's one that's easily layered in mason jars for grab and go lunches. If you want to layer it, I'd suggest keeping the ingredients somewhat separate and layering them how you would normally layer any mason jar salad. This strainer I'm about to show you from IKEA, I had to share. Not only does it have a small footprint because it's collapsible, but you can cook your pasta in it for easy straining, and it's also great for steaming vegetables. Now, this is a recipe I came up with off the cuff, so I don't have a link for this one, but the ingredients are pretty simple and straightforward. As you saw earlier, I cut up 2 zucchini, 1 small container of tomatoes. I also had a tub of feta, an average size tub of feta, an entire bottle of marinade, and I just throw them together and mix them up after they're cooked. Super simple. I made this in 2 batches to ensure the orzo cooked evenly, and not only does it look yummy, but it tastes pretty delicious too. I was actually surprised that my children all liked this one. It was a risk for sure, but the payoff was that they all ate their veggies and veggies that they don't normally eat as well. And am I the only one that does this? A surefire way to know how I feel about food is if you see me dancing while eating it or bouncing. I like it.
So this next tip seems obvious, but I think a lot of us don't do this, which is to keep a running list of your family's favorite go-to meals. You know, those meals that are quick and easy and that every single person loves, you hear no complaints over. I just try to make sure that I always have those specific items in stock. So if I'm, having a busy week and I don't feel like planning my meals, I say, oh, let's just have our pizza night on a Tuesday, or, oh, let's go ahead and just make some tacos. I have chilies, I have rice, I have chicken, and I have taco shells. We're good to go. Which really brings me to my next tip, which is the best tip ever. It has absolutely changed my life when it comes to planning meals in just a couple minutes.
For that tip, we're going to start on our dinner dish. The star of the show for this dish is the bread. We can't be the only family out there that can turn bread into an entire meal. After all, isn't that basically pizza? Anyways, this recipe actually calls for a round loaf that isn't cut, that we would then go ahead and make our own kind of checkered board pattern cuts into it. However, I ordered my groceries and this was my substitution, so we're going to make it work. We're going to start by melting a stick of butter and pouring that over and into the loaf. We're using another one of those sauces that I keep on hand here. I just love a pesto. After I get the butter poured over the slices of bread, I'm going to add the pesto to the top and down in between the slices as well. This is where that checkerboard pattern cut would have been really beneficial. So if you happen to get a slice loaf like mine, I'd probably say lay the pieces flat on a baking sheet to more evenly spread out the pesto if you want the pesto with each bite. However, I quite liked having about half the slice not having the pesto on it. I thought it was a nice balance. Also adding this Italian blade cheese to our loaf. Even though it's priced the same, I just love getting the slices as opposed to the shredded. It feels like a luxury even though it's not, and we're definitely going to just use that same method that we did with the pesto, adding it to the top but also sticking some down in between each slice. Now I'm just wrapping the foil over top of it, and I had to get an extra piece to put on top because I spread the slices out a little bit more than what I was imagining I would, and so I needed to make sure I covered the entire thing. My oven is set at about 375, and I'm going to bake this for 15 minutes. Once I bake it for 15 minutes, I'm going to remove that top layer of foil, open it up a bit, and let it just get a little bit more toasty on the top. And I would even say you could probably stick it, turn the broiler on for just 2 or 3 minutes to get it really nice and crispy.
The very best tip I can give you is one that's actually going to take a little bit of work. And just hear me out here because I know you're thinking hey, I'm trying to simplify things, not have more work, but once you take the time to do the work, you're never really gonna have to think about grocery shopping near ever again. So what I suggest doing is making a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, sitting back and going through your pantry and think about every single thing that you shop for every single week. And you're going to do this in every single food category within your home. What this is going to do is it's going to keep us from not only overbuying, but making sure we always have the items stocked that we need to make a meal, and to make a meal without having to really think about it. If you use the first tip I shared earlier, just dump a marinade on something, on some sort of meat, have a veggie, you're good to go. I'm gonna take a second and show you my list to give you an idea of how that looks.
I'm currently updating this list, but I've used this exact one for the last maybe year and a half or so. It's a great way to budget. You see I've added in how much each item cost on the right-hand side. It also almost organizes your pantry and fridge for you, since you've already thought through the most orderly way to group like items together. Now, I want to suggest that you always have all the ingredients for that running list of recipes I mentioned earlier. Easy staples that are non-perishable or frozen are key, because these are your fallback meals. They're always there for you, but you don't necessarily have to make them every week. Something I've learned along the way with this, with some of your favorite inventory, don't write down a specific item, but just the general category. For instance, I'd write 2 cheeses instead of a specific cheese. This allows us to incorporate variety, keeping it from getting boring. Each week, look at your list and see if you're out of anything, and only pick up those things. Not only will you always have a kitchen that is well stocked but doesn't waste, but even if you don't plan any meals at all, you're still golden. And if you want to try new things like I did this week, you should already have most of the ingredients on hand, and you can just add in those couple of extra bits you might need.
And you can also do this for when you have guests in town. So have a separate list of things that you keep stocked in your house, meals that you like to make for guests that are easy, casseroles, baked breakfast dishes, things like that. So that anytime you have somebody coming, you literally just take out this list and order, or go to the store and pick up every single item on that list, and it makes it super easy.
So I'm saving my favorite tip for last. It's not my best tip. You just heard my best tip, but my favorite one for sure. So definitely stay tuned for that. So right now, you guys know that bread is in the oven. We're getting that nice and toasty, but I want to make sure I have some veggies. If the bread is going to be the star of the show, we want to make sure that we got some vitamins and stuff going on in there for the kiddos. So I'm just simply going to roast up a little bit of broccoli and cauliflower. My children love both of these, so I'm adding some of my favorite multi-purpose seasoning in for the broccoli, but I ran out of that, so I'm going to switch it up with the cauliflower, and I'm going to add to it some garlic and onion powder, and add a little bit more olive oil to that, some salt, and we're going to get that all mixed up and put in the oven. And now I'm just decanting my garlic granules, which I much prefer to garlic powder, because garlic powder always gets hard, granules never do. So anyways, I'm just decanting that. This used to be something that I would wait until I had a lot of to do before I did it, but I've mentioned this before, I'm trying to do stuff like that more in the moment. I feel like it keeps my house more organized and clean, and just better well stocked to do it in the moment. And then adding again that favorite olive oil that I have. It is a single source olive oil, which I didn't realize the benefits of single source olive oil. So if you have a moment to look that up, it's really good. Definitely a little bit more pricey, but I think worth it. And this is how that bread turned out. Doesn't it look so delicious? This was her favorite thing that I made for sure. As we know, the egg frittatas were not a win for her. She liked the pasta, but this was where it was at for her. And even a bread like this is something that can be easily warmed back up. So you can make it the day before and just stick it back in the oven, or stick some single slices in an air fryer.
My very last tip is cook less. And what I mean by that is just make larger meals so that you have food to eat on for the next couple of days. That's what I typically like to do. Now, I know that not every family enjoys leftovers. So if your family doesn't like leftovers, I say make the same amount, but just half it and freeze half. That way you can kind of rotate that freezer food, and you still are only cooking 2 to 3 times a week as opposed to 5 or 6 times a week. And if making double and freezing half your meals does sound like that would work for you, or you just like to do freezer meals in general, having one of these little gadgets is like the best thing ever. They're super inexpensive from Amazon, and they have different, obviously, size settings. And you just place your bag in here and you can dump everything in. It just makes it so much easier. That's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that it motivates you to kind of simplify your meals and gives you a couple ideas for some easy, quick meals that you haven't maybe tried. I'm gonna go have another snacky snack, and I'll see you guys later.